use the water emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and,
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 572.PS14409, certificate number 35281, Hawaiian guitar.
Ken, I know you love the blues.
I'm kind of famous for it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people when they went to that movie Sinners, they were like, "Is that Ken Jennings?"
Huh?
And I was like, "Nope, those are talented blues musicians." But I understand the mistake you made. It's a common one.
You feel the blues. You ever feel the blues?
Is it okay for me as just a middle class modern white guy to be like, "Oh yeah, I feel the blues"?
Well, I don't know.
Because I woke up this morning,
Ba-da-da-da.
and things were just fine. I took a shower. That's not the blues.
No, not at all.
Nobody's ever like, things were just fine. I took a shower.
I mean, I think maybe that's one
I had
of
some
the
leftover gnocchi in the fridge.
It's one of the verses
night.
from Adventures in Babysitting, that famous blues movie. I think she actually did wake up that morning and everything was fine at first before it went sideways.
Oh, is that a blues template? You wake up and things are pretty good, but then your baby cheats on you, and then the boss yells at you. And
The thing about the blues templates is...
the blues don't have plot twists.
Oh, there's a lot of plot twists. But,
No, things are just rough.
Oh, they're rough from the start, you're
Yeah,
saying.
and they kind of stay equally rough. There's not an arc, is my sense of the blues.
Well, I mean, your girl can cheat on you, and you didn't expect that from day one, right? That's a little bit of a... No, things go bad in the course of a song.
But what I'm saying is when the song starts, the singer already knows she's cheating on him and is going to express that to you.
I see.
There's not a lot of mood shifts.
Well, and for instance, you can take a girl out to the lookout point, and then your safety belt won't unfasten. And then you spend the whole song trying to get the seatbelt undone.
Is this Safety Belt Blues? I don't know this song.
Yeah, it's a Chuck Berry song.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Wait, what song is that?
Well, he had no particular place to go.
Oh.
That yeah, that's right.
He's driving around in his automobile.
He had a place to go, which was into his friend's pants.
Poodle skirt.
Yeah, and but
it didn't work out.
Too bad, so sad.
Did they actually have seatbelts back then? I guess they did.
They were brand new, and I think
that's why it's like one of these songs where it's like, this Dropbox sucks or whatever.
Yeah,
it's modern technology
tune. It was the first anti-seatbelt song, and you could see why you wouldn't. You know, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, if you fall off a bridge, you're going to get caught and drown. If your car goes off the road, if it's like a Mary Jo Kopechne type of situation."
That's why the government had to start writing all those pro-seatbelt blues songs to fight back.
But they were disco. Pro-seatbelt songs were all disco.
It's like, you don't want to go through that windshield. It's a traffic inferno.
But the blues have played a major role in both of our lives. We're Americans of the 20th century.
Yeah,
wouldn't you say?
Mostly blues descendants, I guess. Like, I remember as a kid, I think my dad got that Robert Johnson CD collection once it came out, and I was like, here we go, I'm going to understand the blues. And I put it on, and I was like, well, this is all crackly and weird. This is just like an old guy in a barn. And I went back to listening to New Order.
It turns out that the tapes were all sped up, too, that the actual...
Is that right?
Yeah, I think those Robert Johnson, the tracks, if you slow them down, they sound more normal and less like supernatural.
Well, I didn't know that in the 90s. Where were you then, John, when I needed this information?
It's true, though, that in the 80s in particular, there was what I guess you would call the third or fourth blues revival, sort of post-Blues Brothers.
Oh, yeah, this is when the blues got really good.
The reintroduction.
When Dan Aykroyd started to sing it.
The reintroduction of the blues to white suburban teenagers like, no, you got to go back to the source. And I spent my time down at the Crossroads listening to the original recordings.
I mean, if not for that time, B.B. King would not have a chain restaurant today, probably. You couldn't go to House of Blues. We probably owe that to that era of revival.
Wait, is House of Blues a B.B. King owned operation?
Is it not? Am I just assuming it is?
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. I thought House of Blues was owned by Dan Aykroyd, frankly.
Did they try to sell you those weird vodka skull bottles?
I played at a few House of Blueses over the course of my career.
You are exactly right. It is Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd, right. And it's the type of thing where you get a bloomin' onion as part of your backstage rider.
Here's how you know it's good. The original company, the first one was in Harvard Square, financed by Dan Aykroyd, Aerosmith, Paul Shaffer, River Phoenix, Jim Belushi, John Candy, and Harvard.
There you go. Everyone a lion of the blues.
The future Simpsons writers needed a place to hang out, and River Phoenix and Paul Shaffer obliged.
Well, there are a lot of sounds that we associate with the blues that I think we imagine being somewhat eternal, like sounds that came from Africa that were incorporated into American like instrumentation, admixed with Scots-Irish country music, but the essential elements, a lot of them, at least I, as a fan of the music, kind of just in my head, I imagine it just being in West Africa as some sort of proto version of that instrumentation, and that whatever role the guitar played or electric amps or whatever, that was just
a little modern shading. But that the core of the music, the sounds and the vibe is something that's ancient. Because that's what would convey authenticity to a modern and especially a white audience, right? Is that this is another tradition I'm understanding from all the way back.
There's a kind of Orientalism that happens in America where white people look at black people and imagine all of the magic.
Right.
That
it's a trope in movies, right?
Yeah,
that
right.
A black character is employed in this kind of weird mystical way that maybe doesn't do anybody any favors.
One of the hardest things as a musician when you're dealing with just general music business and music people is that moment when you actually sometimes will have to watch someone confront in real time the fact that not all black people are good at music. And you'll see, and it's often sometimes confusing even to black people who are like, well, I'm black, so I'm great at music.
Oh, this is a misconception on both sides.
This happens all the time where you're at a show and it's like, and now here she is. And she gets up on stage and everybody's like, oh my God, because it's a room full of white people and everybody else on the stage is white. Oh, here's this black girl who's going to come out and blow everybody, and she's just fine. And it's like, oh.
But there is the converse thing where like maybe a white talent of maybe moderate proportions is really celebrated because it's like, oh my gosh, she sounds like that. But look, she's white.
She's white.
What a parlor trick she's come up with.
It's just it's a whole the American like race in music thing is 2,000 years from now, people will still be talking about it. I read a post from Sherman Alexie a couple of days ago where he said that the White Stripes 7-nation army has broad appeal in the Native American communities.
Interesting.
Because the music to him sounds very Native American. And he was saying like it connects across all Space and Time with American Indians is like, yeah, that's our jam right there.
Do you think it's because the Iroquois had 5 nations and now they're like, holy cow, 2 more nations?
Boom!
This is 40% more nations.
2 more nations, Jack and Meg White.
Yeah, that's right. They're the 2 extra nations that they're bringing to the table.
But I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I get that.
But I would never want to say that. Here's me posting online. Hey, you know what? Seven Nation Army reminds me of Native American music. I'm not saying that.
And what's cool about that is that Seven Nation Army is maybe the most recent and sort of classic, the most recent song to be put into the ultra canon, right? It's going to be used forever.
Marching bands will be playing that in space.
My kid and all of her friends all know it inside and out, and yeah, it will be played at soccer games in Southeast Asia for the rest of time.
It kind of snuck up on me. Like, did it not happen at the time? Because when it came out, I was just like, this is a good White Stripes album with a good White Stripes song. I wasn't aware of it becoming like a parade song. Did it happen right away?
Well, no, I don't. I'm not sure. Right when the song came out, my feeling was like all indie rock snobs. Oh, the last White Stripes record was better. This one is like, I see what he's going for, type of.
But you imagine somebody hearing the Satisfaction riff for the first time on the radio and thinking, the world has changed. And I don't think that happened with Seven Nation Army.
It's so basic through the whole tune.
Yep.
That I think as a guitar player, I was like, well, nice first pass, but that's kind of what's so cool about the basics of that, like kick drum and the what are the other great sports stadium rock songs? There's the one by Queen.
Yeah, or there's several by Queen.
I don't know. We Are the Champions.
Do I think Louie Louie, or is that just because we're in the Northwest?
That's just Northwest. And they took that away.
I think marching bands, they took it away at the Mariners games, but marching bands will still play Louie Louie till the end of time, I think.
I don't think so. Now that marching band music directors are millennials, they've never heard Louie Louie. It's the last Gen X marching band.
So all my ideas about what riffs transcend space and time are all 35 years out of date.
I guess so. I'm
probably
afraid so. Except for
right.
Seven Nation Army.
There we go.
Which is in some ways like the absolute distillation of what would you call that? Yeah, I guess like tribal's the wrong word, but it's kind of warlike.
A certain kind of indigenous feel. Yeah, it's martial music for sure.
But it's based around the sound of the slide guitar, which is the guitar is tuned to an open chord, and rather than using the fingers of the hand to play the chords, there's a bar, some kind of metal tube or glass tube, and Jack White is using it to fret across the entire neck of the guitar.
So every single string is being touched by the tube at all times?
Not at all times, but if he hits the guitar with a pick, with his other hand not touching it at all, it will play gong, a chord, like a musical chord. Not
an open chord means all the strings. Is that what an open chord is?
If you pick up a guitar just sort of cowboy style, you have to put your hands on the frets in order to make and an open chord is one where some of the strings in the chord are unfretted. So for a G chord, you fret on the 3rd fret of the E string, but your D, G, and B strings are ringing unfretted.
Okay.
That's what we call an open chord.
Open chord means some of the strings are unfretted. It doesn't mean they all are.
That's right.
Okay.
A guitar in standard tuning, if you just hit it without putting your hands on any frets, it's not going to make a musical chord. It's going to make
that's a bummer for
noise.
me. That's the only chord I can play.
Except if you tune the guitar to what is called a slack key tuning or an open tuning, where you tune the strings in such a way that to hit, if you just drop it,
it'll be a D or something.
Or a C or a G.
Okay.
And if you do that, then you can then put kind of a bar or your finger or a rock, a
Seems like a rock would not be my first choice.
It's not what most people use.
It would have to be a kind of a cylindrical rock that's uniformly close to each string.
like a big skipping rock you might find at the beach.
But if I found one of those, you know what I would do? I would skip it. I wouldn't be like, who's got a guitar? I'd like to play some White Stripes.
But the thing is, you're not the demographic of young person who's at the beach with a guitar.
That's true.
Right?
Are there young men at the beach with a guitar?
Gotta be. Probably in Australia.
I think there's several.
Yeah. But the and also like bottle is another kind of.
Oh, that makes sense.
Places where there are guitars, there are often also bottles. The two cultures line up a lot.
So it's not like, what's the perfect object for this? It's like, what's in this room?
Yeah. What do I already have in my hand?
I don't want to get up from this couch. I got a little buzz. Does the material matter? Maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but would it sound different with glass than with, say,
Absolutely.
rock?
Absolutely. Glass, a rock, a brass like rod.
Because you'd get some like different buzzing vibration.
Yeah, everything changes the feel. But those like that, the idea of an open chord, an open tuned guitar, using a bar or a rock to slide up and down the neck of an instrument. Again, because those things feel so primitive in terms of making music, like that would be the natural thing to do if you had a thing, you would tune it so that when you hit it made a sound, and then you would play it with a rock. I, even as a musician, kind of always, even though I knew the history of a lot of this kind of just through osmosis, part of me believed that it was all rooted in something that was true and ancient in music.
1,000 years ago in the Serengeti, somebody is stringing wildebeest intestines over a hole.
Yeah, and a bottle fell from the sky.
A bottle fell from the sky because the gods be crazy.
Uh-huh.
That's true. That's the only place you'd get a bottle. But it was a rock, clearly.
There is an instrument that, because I think there's a lot of maybe even need for this story to have those origins.
Authenticity.
People really want it. And there's an instrument called the diddly bow, which is maybe the most basic idea of a stringed instrument. It's a string or, some kind of wire nailed into a board with a pin at one end and a pin at the other so that it's suspended under tension. And then a bottle or a rock, and you put the bottle or the rock on one end, and you pluck the string, and you move the bottle up and down, and it changes the pitch.
And that predates the idea of having two wires with slightly different slack or tension?
You want it to.
It does seem like the first idea.
There are a lot of people kind of in musicology or ethnomusicology that want to say like, oh, this has origins in the Sahel, and it's an old-timey, it is a stringed instrument that was used in Africa that is brought over to the States during the slave trade. But in fact, it hasn't really been attested at any time before 1930. So
is Bo Diddley named for the diddly bow or the other way around?
Wow. I think the derivation of the name Bo Diddley is actually kind of more closely related to somebody playing the dozens with him and saying you're not diddly or whatever, and
you're not nothing.
I don't think that Bo Diddley and the diddly bow. I don't think it's clear.
That's an incredible coincidence.
I know, that's kind of weird. Or I mean, there are only so many letters in the alphabet. You know what I mean? And then there are zithers. I mean, there are stringed instruments, obviously, in Africa that. But stringed instruments, like anywhere there's a piece of animal gut and a place to put it under tension, people have been plucking strings since the dawn of time.
Did you ever make instruments as a kid?
Yeah.
So we would do the thing where you would, I don't know, take a shoebox and string rubber bands over the shoebox. And we would always do we never thought, hey, let's do one rubber band and then we can move a bottle.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just because we had seen a guitar before. Like, we knew that you could put multiple rubber bands on. That's what you would do.
You know, the washtub bass. I played a washtub bass at a pretty young age, and this was in the kind of
because you were in the Carter family.
Well, it was. I think it must have been before the jug band at Chuck E. Cheese, but it was. I think it was a Disneyland thing, and a washtub bass is just a broomstick with one string.
Yeah,
and then you change the pitch by pulling the stick taut or slackening it. And I remember playing it and kind of getting a feel for it, like not.
And you can do it after you pluck it, right? So you can go like boop, 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 boop. And that's all. I mean, that's all hillbilly music from Appalachia. You and all your friends were just playing washboards and.
Yeah, here in Seattle, we were like, "Come on, fellers!
This sounds real pretty."
What it surprised me to learn, though, was that a lot of these technologies, thought technologies, namely a guitar, like a 6-string guitar, but tuned to a slackened key or an open chord, and the use of a slide, and ultimately then the progression from those things to electrified, amplified music, guitar used in jazz, guitar then used as an instrument in blues,
R&B,
and then rock and roll.
And then whatever happened to that.
They all have their origins in Hawaii.
Of all places.
When we tell the story of rock and roll, and when we tell the story of the blues and of the story of American music, we do not
center it in Hawaii.
We do not adequately credit Hawaii as the birthplace of a lot of that sound.
Well, Hawaii it feels so ancillary, partly because of where it is. It seems very unlikely that it would be a hotbed for music that we instead associate with Philadelphia or Memphis or the Mississippi Delta or Bakersfield or whatever.
Right.
And then also, we associate it with a very specific kind of niche music. It would be like saying, yeah, all music comes from klezmer, didn't you know? Or all music comes from that 1990, or skiffle, or, just some very weird thing, right? Because Hawaii feels like its own little brief musical moment. But you're saying it all comes from Hawaii.
Not at all, but the guitar obviously is a thing that arrived in Hawaii, and this is part of the story that's pretty well known. The guitar arrived in Hawaii with the Spanish and the Portuguese.
Was it like floating on the tide?
The Portuguese rode guitars around the world.
Giant guitars.
And that's how they conquered all of Africa.
I've spent the last couple of weeks traveling, and I've been in this kind of bureaucratic nightmare of not being able to schedule a doctor's appointment.
What, are you ailing, or do you just need a regular appointment?
I was going to go in for my checkup, yearly physical. Mm-hmm. And the problem is the doctor that Mindy likes said, yeah, I'll see your family as well. But then the office calls me and I'm at work, or and then I try to call back and I just get the number for the healthcare system who's like, yeah, that guy's in our files is not seeing new patients.
Yeah. You're too busy, and also this is not the kind of work that you like to do.
And just the questions of even getting to that point of how do I find a doctor I like? What are even the criteria I use? And the thing is, I think all this results in people not seeking care.
It's certainly true of me. Making the appointments is hard enough, and all the things that they want you to do on the side, I just ignore it.
And do you find that you've seen the real life effects in your life of not going to a doctor when maybe you need to go to a doctor?
Well, I should definitely have gone to a doctor more recently than I have, because, I was supposed to go get blood tests and go back to the doctor, and I was like, blood test, schmud test.
John and I have been trying something new to solve these problems in our life.
I'm excited about this.
We've been trying ZocDoc, partly because it rhymes. I have to say, I enjoy a product that rhymes.
ZocDoc. You do.
Doc.
You do like a product that rhymes. I know that about you.
What are your favorite kind of pretzels? I like rolled gold.
You do like rolled gold.
They're really good.
Yeah. Save your kisses for the missus.
ZocDoc is a free app and website that lets you search and compare high-quality doctors, in-network doctors for you, and then you click to instantly book an appointment. Like, you see what's available, and there's more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty.
I mean, there are filters in ZocDoc where you can only look at doctors that take your insurance, or only look at doctors that are nearby you, or are a good fit for any medical need you have, and are highly rated by verified patients.
And then without even leaving the app, you can see, who's got an appointment when I need one, and you're set.
Yeah, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can often get same-day appointments. Good luck elsewhere.
It's kind of tough out there. It's kind of tough out there.
It's tough out there for us.
It's tough out there for a patient, as the song says.
That's right. So stop putting off these doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/omnibus to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
We at Omnibus recommend it. ZocDoc.com/omnibus.
That's ZocDoc.com/omnibus. Ken, do you remember the good old days?
I sure do.
But I'm talking about the good old days before Microsoft Word had autosave.
Oh my gosh.
The bad old days.
I have stories of having autosave like not set up right or using an older version of Word, and you could just lose a day's work, or if you left your computer on overnight, a week's work.
Well, that's what it's like going online without ExpressVPN.
For maybe some of our listeners don't know what a VPN is. So most of the time you'd use Microsoft Word without autosave and it would be fine. You wouldn't screw anything up. But like once in every N time, something bad would happen and you wouldn't have that backup protection. And that's the same thing that happens when you like connect to any unencrypted network. Like if you're at a hotel, if you're in a coffee shop, your data is not secure. And most of the time that's fine. Those packets with all your data will get past all the bad guys.
But every once in a while, a hacker gets in between.
That's right. And then they'll just see anything you just typed, because unencrypted might be your bank login information or your credit card number or your password to your email or whatever it is. And you don't have to be a genius anymore to do it. Like it's very easy to get hacked now, sadly.
Well, with ExpressVPN, which is by far the best VPN, a hacker would need a supercomputer and over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's
So if you're in that
encryption.
coffee shop typing away and you look over and you see a very, very old man, like he looks like a hacker, but he's pushing 1 billion years old.
He's clearly been working on this for 1 billion years.
He's like, I just need to keep trying passwords and he's like a monkey with a typewriter. Like that's the only guy you would have to worry about, because literally it would take 1 billion years for any other hacker to get through their encryption. That's how good it is.
And ExpressVPN works on all devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and whatever device you have. Pacemakers, presumably, like radio headsets.
In the US, it comes with Identity Defender, like this whole tool suite that like would help get your data removed from data brokers, alert you when there's data breaches involving your information. It's a way to even protect yourself retroactively against the dark web.
Yeah, it's increasingly important for me because I only have 2 passwords and I've been using them since 1998.
And you keep getting the thing saying, hey, these passwords are broken. And you're like,
and like, I know. Ho-hum, I use ExpressVPN. No worries for me.
That must be nice.
Yeah, that's good.
I am also a new VPN adopter and believer. And it's true. Like, you just don't want to risk it. You don't want to risk it. CNET and The Verge have rated it #1 in the VPN space.
Well, here's what you do to secure your online data today.
What do I do, John?
You go to expressvpn.com/omnibus. That's expressvpn.com/omnibus to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free.
Ooh, that sounds like a good deal. I'm going to try that at expressvpn.com/omnibus.
Spanish and actually Mexicans and Portuguese sailors and plantation workers all were part of the economics of Hawaii plantation culture.
They got there in the 19th century.
Yeah, earlier the Portuguese arrived in Hawaii in the 1830s.
For what? For sugar? Or
Yeah,
for
and
pineapple.
And also
they had to bring pineapple.
ranching. You know, they
Oh yeah.
Hawaiian cattle ranching and sheep ranching were big parts of the economy then, and I mean less so now. You don't see as many cattle ranches in Oahu as you maybe once did.
Still up country in Maui. There's cattle country.
Well, in Big Island, it's covered with cows. And so the Portuguese brought both guitars and ukuleles, and the Hawaiians just really gravitated to them. And interestingly, started slack key tuning them right away.
Do we know if there was pre-existing musical traditions that was feeding into? Like, I assume they were singing.
They were singing, and they didn't. I feel like the story is kind of like, I mean, it's clearly poorly documented.
Yeah.
But the popularity of the reason slack key tuning is so appealing, it's appealing even to me, is that
even to you? Are you the last person it would appeal to you?
To me, the great classical musician that I am,
despite your lofty training, even you will deign to play the lowly uke.
You can make a 3-chord song with a rock, and the Hawaiian music was very. It wasn't strummy originally. It was plucky. The adopters, the early adopters of the guitar as an instrument and the ukulele as an instrument, and you still hear it in Hawaiian music. It's finger picked,
right?
You know, they pick through the chord, and so it doesn't have the sort of blues like rawness. It's much more articulate.
Mm-hmm.
But the open tuning allows for a lot of music to be made without a ton of tricky chording. You can kind of just pick. I
mean, to this day, right? A lot of high schoolers will pick up the ukulele, and suddenly they've got 2 million YouTube or TikTok followers.
Right. And the ukulele has been used repeatedly throughout the 20th century, and famously in the 1960s, a Canadian music teacher decided that the ukulele was going to be his introduction to music for students.
Oh, like the recorder?
Yeah, and just basically introduced ukulele as the this is the basic student instrument, and I think created 1 million bad ukulele players, and we're living in their world.
Are they
now.
all Canadians?
No, they came down. You know, Neil Young. Like they infiltrated the United States. And now,
Neil Young was their Manchurian candidate?
I think he already was a musician by the time that the next wave of Canadian ukulele players.
Well, remember the 20s, and it must have been big in like 1920s youth culture, right? Like the stereotype of the kid going away to college with his raccoon coat and his ukulele. Like I guess that was the portable party, like the equivalent of the kid playing Wonderwall at the beer pong party today. Some college student with a ukulele.
Well, that all actually started kind of with one guy.
What, really?
There was a guy named Joseph Kekuku who was just a kid walking home with a guitar and had one of those like kismet moments that he describes as he had a. We're talking about in the 1880s. He's in
Hawaiian
Oahu.
Kid?
He's got an open tuned guitar, which was the style of the time, and he either dropped the guitar or picked up a bolt off the ground and absently kind of hit the guitar with the bolt, and heard that distinctive kind of sound, and then tried it again with his pocket knife, tried it with a metal comb, and essentially taught himself
a new instrument,
like a new technique
that didn't exist.
How to play this this guitar with this bar. And he wrote the first Hawaiian song, the first like Hawaiian music song, Hawaiian love song.
It sounds like what we would think of as Hawaiian music.
Hawaiian love song is still
like it's the kind of, it's been still covered today.
Still covered today. It's a song that's inextricable from our idea of the exoticism of the Hawaiian Islands. Do you want to listen to it real fast?
Yeah, that sounds like something you would hear playing in any, Hawaiian piano bar or luau intro today.
Well, what's interesting about that is, and we'll get to that in a second, that is the product of several technological innovations that proceed from this initial moment. Playing that guitar with a pocket comb on the beach in Oahu, it didn't have all of that, what we think of now as the dulcet sounds of Hawaiian music coming from under the banyan tree.
It's impossible to know how much of that is just implicit in the sound and how much is just the association of it. Like, if I had heard Zydeco music my whole life associated with Polynesian landscapes, would I have that association? But something about it just seems so perfect for a peaceful island evening with the sun setting over the beach.
Well, it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that that this is happening in the Kingdom of Hawaii, which was then annexed to the United States in 1898.
So it was still an independent nation at the time.
An independent nation. So Hawaii was not just in the news, but it was a new American territory, and it was part of this sort of fin de siècle, like exploration or integration of the South Pacific into the larger Western world of sights and sounds.
Fascinating a bunch of Americans, like a kind of a new frontier.
And so this sound, this unique sound that was, it is incorporating like ancient Hawaiian mele music. And the guitar, it was evocative.
Do you have a sense of how popular the guitar would have been as an instrument? Like, were people walking off to the Civil War with guitars?
The guitar was also in the kind of the dawn of its popularity.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
And so I think the banjo probably outsold the guitar until right about this time.
It's gone back the other way. Banjo's once again on top in much of Brooklyn.
But like the guitar isn't a loud instrument. It's hard to have it. It's hard to make it audible in the context of a band.
Yeah, like in a hall.
And any kind of band at the time would have been featuring horns, which blow guitars out of the water.
That makes sense. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
The popular music instruments before amplification are going to be different.
Horns and pianos, like a guitar can be in there, but really just as a rhythm structure. And the idea of the cowboy with the guitar kind of singing his lonesome song is a late 19th century sort of concept, right? What
better campfire instrument than a preservation hall instrument.
Yeah, but country and Western music is really a 20th century invention. Almost all of this music that we think of as being ancient or having ancient roots, it's all that there were no cowboys in 1860 playing, like strumming the guitar and playing the banjo and playing what we would think of as country or roots music.
What did they have, like ocarinas? Yeah, they all had ocarinas.
Yeah, they all had. They were playing Parisian dancehall music, right?
They had a slide whistle. They were all like, that's all they had.
So the Joseph Kekuku actually stowed away on a boat, left Hawaii, took his invention of slide guitar playing, and turned it into a career. He moved to the United States. He started a quintet that toured the vaudeville circuit, and kind of everywhere he went, he was introducing not just this new sound, but using sort of Hawaiian exoticism as a
Right.
like this is, and he wasn't dressing up in a grass skirt. Like he was presenting this as part of the jazz vaudeville, but definitely foreign music.
But it's not like some primitive, it's not like your Anthropology Days thing.
No, and this was and the story of Hawaii at the time was it was a foreign country, or had been until a few years before. In during World War I, there was a lot of Hawaiian kind of interest. There was the Panama Pacific Exhibition in San Francisco in 1915 was one of these world fairs where there was a Hawaiian music component to the exhibition, and all of the visitors came and were struck by this kind of appealing sound and took it back to their respective parts of the United States and then worldwide. And then in World War I, there was another opportunity for Hawaiian music to kind of follow on the heels of soldiers and exposure to, like you were saying, it evokes the tropical paradise. It evokes the hula dancer, the sun setting into the ocean. Like it was a romantic kind of music, to the degree that during this period, which is also the period of the rise of the record player as a thing that you would have in your home.
Right.
The faddishness of it, you're not wrong, but it was a fad that swept the world, and Hawaiian music was outselling all other styles of recorded music in the United States
In the 20s?
In the 20s.
That's fun. So I have this kind of absurdist comedy book from a comedian called Joe Cook. He was like a vaudeville comedian of the 20s. And I don't know why I thought of this. His signature routine is called I Will Not Imitate 4 Hawaiians. And he kind of does this funny nonsense comedy bit about how, like, here's one Hawaiian, and he whistles. Here's 2 Hawaiians. He plucks the ukulele. But I can imitate 2 Hawaiians. I will not imitate 4 Hawaiians. That would put 2 Hawaiians out of work. It's just but it's premised on this idea that people were already going to vaudeville shows to see Hawaiian combos play Hawaiian music. And I had never put together why, but it's because it was one of the most common forms of music hall entertainment, I guess.
Super common, and it was a very common introduction to the guitar for...
that's how people got into the guitar.
People were learning about the guitar first as a slack key instrument before it was a strummy chordy instrument.
Wow.
The guitar was coming into American homes and American life as a novelty, partly as a vehicle,
world music, basically.
Yeah, as a vehicle for this novelty music that was so evocative of these exotic foreign lands and the dreaminess of Hawaiian music
which is not what the guitar is for today, to create that kind of, a certain kind of band can produce that sound on guitar, but that's not what we think of as a guitar is for.
No, we don't use it that way now. But at the time, right, we're talking about ragtime and early jazz. And in that jazz music, the guitar comes into it as a slide guitar because of the overlap of jazz and Hawaiian that kind of starts to bring guitars into jazz bands. Jazz, like, you would be more likely to have a banjo in a ragtime band than you would a guitar, right? As a rhythm instrument.
And does the Delta Bluesman exist at this point?
No.
He's just sat on the inside. Until he goes to see a Hawaiian combo, he has no idea.
What's amazing about the Delta Blues is that it is a 20th century product of all of this kind of stew of influences.
Popular music
that
it's not its own sui generis guy on a plantation kind of a thing. It's the people inventing Delta Blues have heard all these other genres of music. They get Cream and Q and Spin Magazine.
And the slide guitar starts to go away from Hawaiian music and into different styles through Western swing. Before even it's being used in blues.
Western swing.
And Western swing
Is that going to sound like country to us?
Well, it's a style that kind of originated in Oklahoma and Texas that is prototype. It's swing music, but it's leaning on slide guitar, and it's laying out the groundwork for it's cowboy music.
Yeah. Which is where I would have first heard a slide guitar, I think. Like, that's what I would associate it with, although now I think about Hawaii.
Well, and so this is in this stew of the Great Depression, where there are a lot of people traveling all around the country. The bottom has fallen out of the economy. There's a lot of there's a demand for this kind of folksy entertainment,
and a lot of geographic mixing.
And there's a demand now for guitar as a featured instrument in jazz bands, and because this is still a culture largely of big bands.
Right.
And at this point you've got a whole, I guess, fraternity of Hawaiian musicians who have gone out in the world and made careers for themselves, playing, Hawaiian music that ultimately starts having like English lyrics. It's called hapahale music,
which means half white, right?
Half white. Yeah. Hawaiian artists like Solomon Bright and Tan Mo, Sam Koo West, like these were originators of Hawaiian slack key guitar playing that were finding popularity at first as entertainers in this novelty sphere, but then eventually, it becomes Bing Crosby music, right? It becomes music that is part of any USO show, but also part of any kind of big band show. You're going to have a Hawaiian interlude.
And crooners are singing this. Right?
Crooners are singing it. Dick McIntyre was born in Hawaii, but a white guy who became good at slack key guitar and played with Bing Crosby.
I wonder if it influences a lot of the vocal stylings and flourishes and glissandos that we think of from that period. Like all of, obviously there's a big jazz influence on Bing Crosby that he's bringing to white America. But, when you think of all the ooh kind of stuff he's doing, like that could be a bolt moving on a string, right?
Oh, right. Ooh, yeah.
I mean, that's not my Bing Crosby impression. Hey, what's Bing Crosby like? Well, he's a werewolf. Oh, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of glissandos.
Ken, I know you love Factor meals as much as I do. Have you had a Factor meal recently?
Just last week, we were suddenly home unexpectedly on a Sunday night, and Mindy was like, I haven't shopped, because we were out of town.
Right.
She was like, I haven't shopped all week. I have no idea what we're eating. And I said, honey, the freezer. Remember, Factor sent us all those delicious meals. And we dug out whatever they had sent because, I don't remember what I had asked for.
Right.
And amazing, everything sounded really good. And so we cracked open a few of them. And the pork chops and cream sauce were really good. There was some chicken bacon thing.
Yeah, I've had that. That's delicious.
Because I'm like, chicken and bacon, right? What could be better?
Ooh, chicken and bacon. That's what they say.
Everything was great. And so we had all the advantage of not having to shop and prep and cook dinner on this day. We didn't have time for it because everything was ready to eat, but it was also really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you probably had quite a sampling of Factor meals, and everybody has the option of getting Calorie Smart meals from different plans, right? Protein Plus, Keto.
Yeah, they can customize your delivery to whatever it is you're trying, whatever your food journey is.
Yeah, you can have breakfasts, quick lunches, really premium dinners, snacks, desserts. It's got it all.
Those are all parts of my food journey. I'm going to start saying food journey a lot and just see how quickly I get punched in the face.
Oh, just the regular people yeah, let me tell you about my food journey.
I feel like saying your blank journey is something I've never done, but now this is my time. I'm on my journey.
I feel like I would be more likely to step hard on your shoe and then walk immediately away from you. If you said food journey,
That's the Seattle passive aggressive
just
way.
like, oops, sorry, stomp. Here's what you do to join us in our delicious Factor journey. You go to factormeals.com/omnibus 50 off.
Oh, so the code, you go /omnibus50 off. That's the URL.
That's right.
Got
Omnibus 50 off, and use the code Omnibus 50 off
There we go. Easy to remember.
to get.
How much will I get off if I type in that code, John?
Guess what?
How much?
50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
Wait, you get half off and free shipping?
That's right. By using the code Omnibus 50 off at factormeals.com/Omnibus50 off.
50% off plus free shipping. Thank you for my Sunday dinner, Factor.
The first slide guitar recording that made it onto a record actually was a blues back in the 20s, a guy named Sylvester Weaver. I should have mentioned him in the context when you said, is the Delta jumping on this? And in fact, yes, slide had found its way into blues music early enough that that it was being recorded in the 20s.
And you're saying no one had recorded slide guitar before then. Like it was
right.
It was live music.
Yeah. But the slide guitar is also the first electric instrument to be recorded.
Like with some kind of a pickup, like it's amplified?
Yeah.
How did they do that?
Well, so this was the problem of the guitar in bands.
Too quiet.
There was a jazz player by the name of Solomon Ho'opi who was, and there are a couple of ways to play the slide, right? The way that you see in rock, a person's holding the guitar like you would hold a normal guitar,
but one finger has
a bar.
But in a Hawaiian person, it's in his lap, right?
Yeah,
and that's the country way too, right? Or
it became so country will kind of do it either way, but having it in your lap and the guitar being called the lap steel, that Hawaiian style is with the neck of the guitar facing up, and when it's called the lap steel, this also is it's only in the late 19th century that steel guitar strings are invented. Prior to that, they would have all been gut strings, and the guitar would have been that much quieter.
Oh, right.
So steel strings,
you could still do the slide thing, but the sound will fade sooner and
it
be
didn't
heard.
have the trebly plectrumy vibe that steel strings allowed.
And wait, today on a guitar, some strings are steel and some strings are some kind of nylon, or
on an electric guitar, they're all going to be steel. They're just wound or not wound.
The same on a just kind of bog standard acoustic guitar, or
so you have what are called classical guitars, which you use nylon strings, except the low ones do have metal winding.
So if you hear a nylon string guitar on a rock recording, you notice, right? It's an slightly unusual sound.
Yeah, they have to record it separately from the band and kind of put it in there as a effect, a tone. You wouldn't. It's very rare. I mean, Willie Nelson does it. Plays a nylon string guitar in front of a rock band, but he's unusual for doing it, and it's a big part of his sound.
He's unusual in several ways.
He's an unusual guy.
But in the lap, like that has a different presentational effect. I don't know if it changes the sound, but it seems like a studied classical musician when you're holding your instrument in your lap and and looking at it in great concentration.
Well, there are a lot of different slack key tunings, right? There's not just one.
I did not know that. Pretend I don't know anything about music theory and you will not be disappointed.
Okay. When you're playing the blues, I use several different open tunings in my own music. And you can actually, any musician can sit and tune the different strings of a guitar and essentially invent their own open tuning, because as many chords as there are in the world of music, you can...
Yeah, there's more combinations.
Yeah, you can actually tune the guitar to really be any chord you want. The problem is, as soon as you have tuned it to a B flat minor 7, add 9. How?
Yeah.
Where do you go there?
What fretwork will give you another workable chord? Right.
And so there are standard open tunings. There's, any basic like open G, open D, open E, and those respond differently depending on not just where you put the bar, but there are a lot of open tunings that you don't use a bar. You actually fret. Like the Rolling Stones are famous for using an open D tuning for a lot of like Start Me Up.
Mm-hmm.
I use open tunings in half a dozen Long Winter songs, and I don't use really the slide for any of them. There are other tunings that work really well with the slide. And when you think about the slide guitar music as it made its way into rock and roll, like it isn't just Seven Nation Army. It's like Freebird as a slide solo.
Yeah.
Layla, famously. The slide guitar is the core instrument.
Stuff that sounds
bad to the
bluesy.
bone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If it sounds bluesy, it's likely to have.
But the invention of the electric guitar came as a direct result of trying to find a way to get the lap steel to be able to cut it with a band.
You'd have people being like, I love Hawaiian music, but I'm seated too far from the stage. And scientists are like, we need to get to work on this.
Yeah, there was a guy by the name of George. We would look at his name and pronounce it Beauchamp. He pronounced it Beecham.
Okay.
But
I guess assimilation is what it is,
George Beecham was kind of set to the task of figuring out how to amplify guitar music because he had already been part of the invention of what is known as the resonator guitar, the dobro or the national guitar.
Right.
Which was George and these brothers by the name of the Dopiera brothers were trying to get a slide guitar that was loud enough that it could hang with a band, and partly because Saul Ho'opi'i was looking for a way to get that louder instrument. And there was in 1899 there was a violin invented called the Stroviol, which was a violin that actually had a trumpet horn.
Like a Victrola?
Yeah. And so you could play the violin and it had this.
It would amplify. Yeah.
It was amplify. It was a very, at the time, rare and expensive instrument. You can still find people playing Stroviols.
It's basically like a megaphone singer before microphones.
Yeah.
But you put it on your violin.
And so George Beecham saw this Stroviol and was like, whoa, what if we did that except with a guitar? And he built a guitar with a horn, like a Victrola.
Those national guitars, they're like they seem like they're made of metal. They're like steampunk guitars.
Yeah, they are. The one with the horn was ungainly and nobody liked it, but these guys went to work on the design and figured out a way of basically making a sort of a pie plate resonator that went under the bridge out of metal.
Does it sound great or does it sound weird?
It sounds bright and loud.
Yeah.
Louder than it, but now we think of guitar and you're like, oh, I want it to sound warm. Then they were not worried about warm. They were trying to compete with clarinets.
And banjos.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is warmer than a banjo. We did it.
And they worked on it. And the interesting thing about the National Guitar Company and the Dobro Guitar Company, it was all the same people working on the stuff. And one company branched off from the other and then went and bought the first one. And they were working with the Rickenbacker Company on all of this. And we're talking about the mid-30s. And George Beecham was a kind of a prolific inventor type. And he went, after they'd built the resonator guitar, he was like, but what if I ran magnets around the strings and ran it into a stereo receiver, and in the process of experimenting, he invented the guitar pickup and the electric guitar.
I wonder, to what degree was like microphones already existed? Like were vocalists being amplified? Okay, so
Yeah.
so there he can find these parts.
Yeah.
Like the idea that you could use newly discovered electromagnetic gizmos to make things louder. He didn't invent that.
He didn't, and unfortunately, when he applied for the patents, the patent office couldn't decide what it was a patent for. Like, is it a piece of electrical equipment? Is it a new kind of musical instrument?
He was like, "You're not ready for this, patent examiner, but your kids are going to love it."
And honestly, what happened was they took a while to grant him the patent, and then immediately all the people in that same space were like, "Oh,
We could just do this.
we'll do this." And he made almost no money on patenting the electric guitar because the patent office had sort of narrowly patented the technology and not patented the general concept.
I hope he just lived to see all the sin and Satanism that the electric guitar created.
No,
So at
he
least
died young of a heart attack.
Oh.
It just happens.
Alas.
But at this point in time, the lap steel has now divorced itself from Hawaiian music. The slide guitar is now, by the 30s, deeply embedded in Mississippi Delta blues music. And the lap steel is being used increasingly by people in honky-tonks who are using different tunings as part of what is becoming the birth and expansion of country, both kinds of music, country and Western.
Got them both.
And what the country players were struggling with was that anytime your guitar was in a certain tuning, you're kind of stuck with it. And in the course of a song, you might want to do a solo in a different key. The solo section might be
right
in a different key, and so
can't you have a roadie run out and put a new lap steel guitar in front of you?
They would often have a couple of lap steels, and then they started making 2-tier guitars where there are 2 different tunings on a single board.
So what does that mean? It's below it, or it's in front of it, or
right next to it?
Yeah, because you could have different necks, right?
2 different necks is essentially what it was. And then there were a few innovators in the space, and one of them, people who are in the music or guitar world will recognize a man by the name of Paul Bigsby, who essentially invented and popularized the tremolo bar, the whammy bar. And Bigsby also...
the whammy bar works physically how? There's some kind of tension, right? It's springy?
So the tailpiece, the way any guitar, any stringed instrument works, including diddly bow, is that you've got a string that's tightened between 2 posts.
Yeah, the bottom stays stationary, you can adjust the other end.
Yeah, but there's a bar across the top. So even though you can tune it with a peg, the string itself is the pitch of it is determined basically by the tension on it and its length between the 2 poles.
Right.
And the reason a fret works is you push it down and then the fret becomes
the top pole,
a shorter pole. Right. What a Bigsby tremolo does is that at one end, at the bottom end of the string, where the string is fastened in below the bridge, that actually is instead of a solid bar drilled into the top of the guitar, it's a mechanism that has a spring attached and then a whammy bar. And if you move the bar, it rotates it pivots the thing that the string is connected to, loosening or tightening the slack.
So the pitch goes...
And because a whammy bar goes across all 6 strings, you can do that tightening and slackening across a whole chord. And whammy bars have been used since their invention by artists to create whole styles of music.
Yeah.
Not just Eddie Van Halen, but surf music leans on that, which evokes Hawaiian music too.
Yeah.
but it gives it a kind of shimmer. I mean, it's definitely one of the tools that allows the electric guitar to be such a massively popular and prolific instrument.
I mean, it's one of the things that makes it almost like a voice, right? Like the electric guitar can do like so many little things that the human voice can do.
And what Bigsby was a part of was the invention of what became known as the pedal steel guitar. And the pedal steel is a lap steel, except instead of a tremolo that goes across all the strings, the pedal steel has levers that allow you to use your feet and your knees to raise and lower the pitch of different strings in the guitar as you're playing it.
Your knee is part of the... I didn't know that.
So there on a typical pedal string or pedal steel guitar, there are 10 or 13 strings. You know, it's got a wide variety of strings. On the floor, there are 3 pedals like you might see on a piano that you push down and it will raise or lower the pitch of one or more strings at a time.
Why are there 3?
To create different chordal patterns. So you can flat certain strings and all of a sudden your open chord is a different chord. You can flat one and sharp another. Huh. And then at your knee, there are other levers which you move either like laterally or medially.
I did not know pedal steel had knee controls too.
And you can do them all. You can push down the left foot pedal and move your right knee to the right.
Just like the hardest instrument to play.
It's insane. And to watch a great pedal steel player is a thing of beauty. I cannot fathom them.
Have you ever?
Yeah. I've actually played it on a Long Winters record, but it was one of those things where I sat in the studio dicking around with this thing like you'd given a telescope to a monkey, and then
you figured out how to how to play the one part for the one song.
By happenstance,
this sounds okay.
The monkey looks through the telescope and it happens to be pointed at Saturn, and he's like, "I've discovered the universe," and that was me.
Is this the meta? What if we had 1 million monkeys looking through 1 million telescopes? They would discover every star if you gave them an infinite amount of time.
Would one of them record the first Long Winters record? Yes. In this case, it happened. And so watching someone play Western swing on a proper pedal steel, and so what you get as the evolution of the pedal steel guitar happens, you get them now that have 3 different tiers, 3 different guitars, all connected to this complicated apparatus of pedals and levers.
I'm picturing like an 18th century loom. Like it must be just the weirdest thing.
It's at least that big and busy, and you watch a gifted player, and it's just otherworldly. I think you're absolutely right that even playing a classical piano, it doesn't inspire the same kind of confused awe in me as watching a really gifted pedal steel player.
And even just listening to a recording, I remember the first time I heard songs with pedal steel, I was suddenly aware that, that's not an emotion you can create with any other instrument. What even is that? Which doesn't happen a lot in recorded music when you're suddenly like, that's a new color.
Well, and what's crazy is that the final kind of evolution of this happened in 1953, and when you say that's a new color, there really was a moment. A player by the name of Bud Isaacs was laying down a pedal steel track for Webb Pierce in a song called Slowly. What pedal steel players had been doing up until that point was changing the chord, but not playing through it. You would play a part, then you would move the levers, change the chord, play in the new key, move the levers, change the chord, play in the new key. And thinking of the instrument kind of being played sort of staccato.
Yeah.
Staccato. And what Bud Isaacs did on this recording was he moved the pedals and the levers while the string was still sounding.
So that without having to touch the strings again, the new chord appears.
Appears kind of like comes up out of
the old chord,
out of the old chord, and now and because the way pedal steels work, some strings are going up, some strings are going down, and it had this the otherworldly character that even all the pedal steel players of his time, their first impulse was like, "Oh my God, like what is this madness?" And it was a perfect example of one of those tunes where it just sort of changed the world.
It still sounds country. Even if you hear it in another genre of music, you're like, what a nice little country overtone here.
And that country overtone is very Hawaiian because Hawaiian music continued to evolve alongside the pedal steel. And now Hawaiian music is made with this often. I mean, you can make it with the simplest sort of lap steel. But sophisticated Hawaiian music uses pedal steel guitars.
So they reabsorbed all the innovation.
The Western swing innovation, and in a way became more Hawaiian in the 60s, in the Elvis era of and post World War II, where Hawaii became again, a massive fad in American culture. Now we were listening to the Hawaiian music that you and I grew up with was Hawaiian music that had filtered through the guitar, through the blues,
and through
country,
Western
through
music.
The invention of the electric guitar, the invention of the lap steel, the pedal steel, and then came all the way back to us and sounded like music from 1,000 years ago.
When we're in Hawaii, I mean, specifically if we're on Maui, we often just turn the rental car to KPOA, which is the local Hawaiian music station with kind of charmingly, it still sounds like a homemade station. It does not sound like a Clear Channel station because it's these DJs telling you that, how's your workday going?
And grandma's here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm your auntie on the radio. There's one guy who's like very religious and is like, hey, God's looking after you on your drive home. I'm like, oh, that's good to know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's maybe how radio did sound 50 years ago. And they play a ton, so the local ads are fun, but they play a ton of Hawaiian music. And it's always it's sixes whether you're going to get some awful reggae cover where they've changed all the references to be about Hawaiian geography instead of Jaw and the Caribbean. But then every other one is just some amazing pedal steel or lap steel thing. And I can't tell if it's from 1958 or 2008. Like, it could literally be from any time because I don't know anything about the genre. And sometimes you're like, well, this is country music, but it also sounds Hawaiian, or this is Hawaiian music, but it also sounds a little bit country. And it turns out it was both, but it was Hawaiian first, I guess.
What's interesting about all these 20th century musical genres is that sometimes they get really conservative really fast, right? Like, the Delta blues were only invented in the early part of the century, but even by 1950, there were people like, that's not the authentic blues. It's like, it's only 20 years old, bros. And with country and Western, you get that too. Like, this is modern, this is classic, this is authentic, this isn't. And Hawaiian music, also can fall prey to being ossified. But I think, you and I may be 5 years away from hearing a new explosion in Hawaiian musical expression that we're just not even prepared for.
I'm ready. And that concludes Hawaiian Guitar, entry 572.PS14409, certificate number 35281, in the omnibus. I mean, we're 5 years away from Hawaiian music coming back only if civilization doesn't end. And
civilization may only survive in Hawaii, maybe the only place.
Where else would be better, honestly? You got to go there now just in case, except they don't want us there.
Thankfully, you and I are both beloved in Hawaii.
Oh, my gosh. All Are we? I mean, the lady at Costco is very nice to me, but I don't know if that means anything.
I mean, we're both on record saying really nice things about Hawaii for years. We're not Johnny come lately.
But did you know America is full of middle-aged white men saying nice things about Hawaii? We are not a scarce resource for them.
I think.
Oh boy, guys from the West Coast who like Hawaii, we finally found one. I mean, we haven't left our wives to go there. That's what they're really not into, I think.
Yeah, we were early in the space, I think.
There we go. You especially. But that decline is being marked nowhere like it is on social media. We were once at Omnibus Project, at John Roderick, at Ken Jennings on various platforms. I just saw you got back on your Facebook not long ago. Did you find your password? Was it like on the bottom of your drawer or something?
You know, what it was, I think I said it at the time, like it was two-factor authentication, but Facebook believed that it had to be a certain phone that I had dropped in the ocean, actually in Hawaii, and I couldn't get that phone. It was bricked by the beautiful waters.
Yet another thing that Hawaii did for your Aloha spirit was get you off Facebook.
It did. I was off the Facebook, but then, what was it? It was some stupid workaround that I would never have discovered except.
Who was it? Did a fan help you do this?
I slipped in the bath or something, yeah, and a fan was like, I don't know, did you ever try to go to this menu? And it two-factor authenticated to... I don't even remember the details, but somehow...
Your Fitbit and your Nest.
Somehow I got in. Yeah, my Nest thermometer.
Your smart fridge let you into Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, if you turn the temperature up to 70, you can get into Facebook for 3 seconds. Go. And I did. And as soon as I got back onto Facebook, I was like, oh, that's right. Here it was all along.
That's why you didn't want to be there.
But I got a lot of wonderful greetings from futurelings who posted comments under everything I posted for the next month.
That must be nice.
Welcome back to Facebook.
It was actually all me. I created a series of accounts to welcome you.
How many futureling accounts do you have?
We think we have so many listeners, or you think we do, but it's all just me. But email always works. We're at the Omnibus Project at gmail.com. You can send physical items. Send us your weird guitar slides to P.O. Box 55744.
Send me all your old national guitars.
Shoreline, Washington, 98155. Mississippi Delta, shining like a national guitar. I actually have some mail here, even though we are not in our usual bunker.
Yeah, do we want to talk about the bunker we're in, or do we just want to let people try and figure it out on their own?
We're in LA today because of my schedule being a nightmare. And so I had a bunch of mail that had come to the P.O. box, which I stuffed into my carry-on, and I raced to the airport, and the bag goes through TSA, and the agent calls over 2 other agents.
Because it was some mail that you didn't know what it was.
And they're like, hey, sir, do you have any weapons in your bag? And I was like, I do not. And then they opened the bag, and I saw all these sealed envelopes, and I was like, you know what? Funny story, guys. So I have this podcast. I'm trying to explain why I have... Because, they're always like, did anyone else have access to your bags? Did you pack these yourself?
Of course.
And I did pack them myself with random things that weirdos nationwide had packed for me themselves.
Now, let me ask you.
Which is not in the spirit of the warning.
Did anyone in this TSA little group recognize you?
Luckily, this is why I'm here instead of in El Salvador, is because one guy was like, hey, Ken, right? And I was like, yes. And so then I could be like, so I have this podcast. It was less weird.
Yeah, right.
Because when they brought up the image, you could clearly see a sword and a gun.
You're kidding.
Perfectly silhouetted in my carry-on, unbeknownst to me, but thanks to our listeners who had sent us mail.
Oh my God, this is the funniest and greatest thing I've ever heard. Why did you bury the lead? You didn't. We've been hanging out for 3 days. You didn't tell me this.
I was saving it for it. We don't want to reenact it on the show.
Oh my God.
So Chris from Eugene apparently is the one responsible for sending us this miniature gun,
45 caliber, 1911 model.
Which, what is it? Let's see if
it belonged to G.I. Joe.
Here, take a look at this.
Chris, love it. I had this little cap gun.
I found these in the walls while remodeling my 1914 bungalow. Wow.
Oh my God, look at it. It's so awesome.
So I get this Winston Churchill High School certificate to certify that Roy Nelson was on the 9th grade football team in 1969. Is this from Eugene? Is there a Winston Churchill High in Lane County, Oregon? I don't actually know the answer to this. And then he predicts that you, John, will want, he doesn't say what it is. He just says it's a gun.
Yes, it is a gun.
But it's a toy? Like it's...
Yes, it is a
You
tiny
can see the
toy.
photos on Patreon if you're a subscriber at that level, but it's like...
It fits in the palm of my hand.
Yeah, but it does seem like even on the, some ivory-handled thing that a lady in a noir might have in her purse, it's still too small for that, right?
This would not be a functioning weapon, no.
So the guy looked at this, and he said, I'm going to let you keep that. If you take that on the plane, you're going to get your ass kicked. That was the TSA's take on this miniature scale gun. And if I had not been somebody he recognized from TV, I don't think that would have happened.
Wait, he said, I'm going to let you keep it, but you can't take it on the plane, or you can't?
He was saying, no, he let me take it on the plane, and he said, because if you try to pull this on the plane, you're just going to get your ass kicked.
When was the last time?
Basically, he was saying, if you try to hijack a plane with this, I'm not worried.
How is it that you get the one TSA agent in America that has a sense of humor?
Right.
I've had so many TSA agents take fingernail clippers and tiny little knives.
We lost peanut butter cups because they had peanut butter goo inside them, and that's a paste.
Yeah. But this guy's like, oh yeah, here's this miniature gun.
Here's a tiny gun. It looks and feels like a gun. Enjoy.
But you can take it
travels.
on. But the thing is, now I have it. And if I try to take this back through TSA, I'm going to get pulled. And now you have to keep this here in LA because neither of us are going to want to get pulled out of line going through.
Oh, this is not going home.
Pre-check.
Yeah, this is going to stay here. And then the other thing, which I took a photo of so I can show you, which they would not let me take on the plane. So I had to do I was given the mail it back to yourself option.
Oh, that's good.
Let me see if I can find the photo. It was a letter opener in the shape of some kind of Spanish sword.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, if you try to send, so this letter opener has had many adventures getting to us. If you try to send a letter opener through the mail, I guess they're very pokey.
Yeah.
Which means the thing that got sent to us, the envelope had already been ripped open, perhaps by the contents itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like by the edge of the thing itself. So somebody, had sent it to the Honorable Ken and John from Sandston, Virginia. But any enclosed material has fallen out and has been replaced by this apology letter from the post office saying, don't send odd-shaped things in mailers because this is what happens. Open, no address on envelope. So somebody from Sandston, Virginia, we thank you for this letter opener that looked like a sword and did not survive getting mailed and then almost got me arrested at SeaTac.
So the sword did get back to your house, or is it gone forever?
Yeah, you can go. So I could have put it in Mindy's. Mindy checked a bag.
Oh,
but that had already happened.
That's
that ship
gone.
had sailed. So
Yeah.
all I could do was go out to the little booth and have the third party mail it back to myself.
what are the chances that the one time that you bring mail on an airplane unopened, it has a gun and a knife?
Think how often we have opened mail and it's like, oh, hey, look, it's a doily.
Yeah, it's a book of dirty comics that I wrote.
Why didn't we? That's what I thought I was putting in my bag. But no, it was a gun and a knife.
And a knife.
So,
Wow.
So thank you to Chris from Eugene, and thank you to Nameless Sandston, Virginia listener. Please let us know if that was you. We appreciate all the weaponry. And
keep sending it, but just
this time we won't try
heads
to
up.
take it in a carry-on on a commercial jet. The best way to support Omnibus is to, first of all, not send us weapons. Instead, go to Patreon. If you're like, hey, this thing costs about $5, I could send it to Ken and John. Or guess what? You could just send us $5.
There you go.
At patreon.com/omnibus
A
project.
month.
It's not just, we do benefit to the tune of, if my math is right here, $5 a month,
Mhm.
$2.50 each. but our benefit is as nothing compared to yours because that will unlock the untold riches of our supporter page, including early ad-free access to every new entry and the catalog of about 60-something addenda shows at this point. Hours and hours of new Virgin Omnibus.
Brilliant. You can't afford not to do it. But also, send us your guns and knives.
Send John your guns and knives. I've had enough. I've had enough of my survivalist mail.
Futurelings, from our vantage point in your distant past, we have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. But if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we wish you many goods and cheese and hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.